So now I will talk about the present and future of capsule endoscopy. It will be merely technical. So my CEO, as you know, for the last 20 years, the capsule endoscopy had been a major breakthrough thanks to our colleague from Israel and given imaging as Medtronic. Of course, during the last 10 years, multiple companies have been developed some hardware, but they are mainly similar, depending Medtronic from State now, Olympus from Japan, but they stopped to deliver the capsule. Hosoe from China, Mirocam from Korea. We have some capsule cam also from ASA and Hong Kong, what is mainly by the time being gastric. And the software are very similar for conventional reading. But it was true until last couple of years. This is a paper published in GI Endoscopy 2 years ago, and they look about the various commercially available capsule endoscopy, but mainly from the state. So it's all the capsule cam from Medtronic with various type of equipment, and as Professor Hosoe described, for colon, Crohn, and panendoscopy. So that is basically the same concerning the size, the weight. What is important, and I will talk about also, is the field of view, because for colon, we need to have a larger field of view for a small bowel. Also, we are able to have more image per second. And the last point is concerning the battery. We need a battery, a long-lasting battery, in order to record for small bowel, but also for colon. That is really important, but basically they are all the same with a little adjustment. What we have in the capsule, what we could expect from the time being by the improvement of the technology. First, improvement of the capsule itself, resolution, field of view, improvement of the belt, because better handling, especially with small patient or large patient, and the recorder, in order to have a battery and to see what is going on for hours. And finally, the image analysis. That is really what we expect from the improvement. We are looking for improvement. So this is a good example. You see the first generation for Hosoe and the second generation, first generation here, and the second generation. In the second generation, you could see the very detailed villi of the small bowel, what is not so well visible in the first generation. So wider angle view, higher resolution, and also natural color tone improve the detail. What is really we look through, and we have a breakthrough about 2017, 2019, when all companies bring some new sensor, new capsule. This is another example taken my unit 2 years ago. You see here the detailed mucosal pattern, exactly like we do with a scope, with detailed pattern. You see the vessel here, very, very detailed abnormality, and here a small angioma. So that means, during the last 5 years, the technology of capsule for small bowel have been quite improved by resolution and by angle view. And you see very well the detail of this abnormality. Sorry. And that is really for the same company we could expect. You see various kinds of capsule with an angle view, another capsule with angle view, and this is another one. So that means it's exactly like we are doing endoscopy. When you have a colonoscope or a gastroscope, what is really important is the ultra-wide view, in order to pick up any abnormality behind a fold, and also the depth of the field in order to see as much as possible from 5 to 5, so from 0 to 5 millimeter in front of the lens. And another example of the number of frame, the detail you see here, the papilla of Vater in second part of the duodenum. If you don't have a lot of frame rate, if you don't have a detailed examination, you could miss this, and this, of course, another one. So that means, you know, the definition of a capsule with a new sensor, you could see the cardia, you could see the gastric, the small bowel, part of small bowel. This is also the papilla and the colon. So you could have a very detailed, nearly like an endoscopy, at least for endoscopies for first and second generation of high resolution endoscope. And it's really what we try. I used to work with Olympus company for the development of the capsule. And really the goal at that time, it was about 10 years ago, the goal at that time is to have exactly the same kind of picture and tone what we have when we are doing a single balloon enteroscopy. This is a picture of single balloon enteroscopy. You could see here, and you see the detail of the villi, and this is one of the capsule, and the capsule from Olympus at that time, you could see also the detail of the villi. What is really important to reproduce with the capsule what we see during the enteroscopy. And there are some paper published for the resolution. You know, this is a paper published in Korea, and clearly show the advance in optical technology able to increase the detection rate and to see detail of lesion, pre-lesion of malignancy. So first point, more we have resolution, more it's important for diagnosis. You know, the second is the frame rate is the same. The diagnosis values of picture depend on quality of reveal underlying tissue surface, and poor visualization quality in all parameters at the greatest effect on the diagnosis of lesion. So we need to have a software able to analyze the picture what we record from the capsule. So it's been published by my friend anesthesiologist from Denmark. So that means if you have a poor quality of capsule endoscopy image, there's a negative effect on the diagnosis. So another point is the belt. Now we need to have a belt with a viewer in order to monitoring all the capsule, all during the capsule passage from stomach to small bowel to colon. And this picture, real-time picture, is really important, especially, you know, the capsule stay in the stomach. You could use prokinetic in order to pass the capsule from the stomach to the small bowel. So it's really important to, you know, this equipment and been quite improved for recording, quite improved for the belt. So now we have a patient with a large patient, obese patient, are able to have a capsule with a belt ability more. Working time. Working time is a battery. You know, what we could expect, you know, we could expect with a longer working time to record more and more picture. And in this paper published 5 years ago, you know, the author found that the 12-hour capsule endoscopy had a significant increase in complexion rate. So that's really important. I remember it's always very frustrating, especially when you are looking for small bowel disease, that the capsule cannot attend the cecum because the battery is not enough lasting. So with prolonged small bowel transit time during capsule endoscopy may be associated with increasing the diagnosis. Yeah, that is also an important point. Now the software. And it's where really there are quite a lot of improvement during the last 10 years. You know, when we started the capsule endoscopy 20 years ago, we performed small bowel examination, and then we spend, you know, minutes and nearly hours to review all the picture. And it was, you know, time consuming, it was boring, and we get fatigue, and we could miss something. It's why all the company, they develop a software. What is important to the software is to pick up all similar image and to put in one and to keep only different image. But that means we could reduce by the software with the Omni mode and red assist mode in order to pick up some bleeding or some red spot, and free track to know exactly where is the capsule on the small bowel when we look about an abnormality. In that case, should we start with enteroscopy by the mouth or by the anus? So this software has been quite improving. And this is the exact what we expect from the Omni mode. We know the Omni mode developed by Olympus. With the computer, we were able to speed the reading time without missing any lesion. Because if we speed the reading time, but we are missing lesion, capsule is useless. So we need to keep up all the usable picture and make shorter. And this is what we expect from the capsule. We pick up with software, we pick up any abnormality. You see here the red spot for bleeding. We could see here where the capsule is on the small bowel. So we start for upper or lower. And this is a pick up a really relevant picture of the abnormality. And you know, that is was we make a trial in Europe with my friend Chris Raguenat, and this trial on the Omni mode from Olympus, they show by this trial we decreased by 64% the reading time. That is quite important, and it was an important step at that time. It was published in 2016. But you know, everything is different now with artificial intelligence. What is really important, because you know, artificial intelligence with a capsule is really AI diagnosis. In endoscopy, AI is just a computer help endoscopy. In capsule, it's really diagnosis, because, you know, for the computer, no performance decrease due to fatigue, stress, or lack of experience, and is fast, accurate, consistent, and reliable human assistant. It's really a breakthrough with the AI in capsule endoscopy reading. So, what we could expect, we could monitor capsule examination without expertise skill. All data are already recorded. Lecture boring disappear, and they have some convincing trial on bleeding, inflammatory, and also diagnosis, because the first AI software was looking for bleeding or inflammatory. But the next first trial published from China in gastroenterology in 2017, it was a really remarkable diagnosis. As you see, this software they developed in Shanghai with more than 100 million of images from nearly 7,000 patients in 77 centers in China, with a lot of image for training, abnormal image for training, 150,000 issues from 118,000 patients, and of course they read with a commercial 20 commercial experts, and the first software published were about bleeding or inflammatory. This software is characterized, you know, with the diagnosis normal, inflammation, vascular, polyp, ulcer, protruding lesion, diverticular, and they were validated 5,000 patients. So this is the overall diagnosis. As you see, in some cases for ulcer, there are no difference with normal reading, but for all the other, they're able to see a little bit more with AI software compared to the expert. So that's really important, and you see the difference between two non-significative for parietal bleeding, but for over is quite important, especially here the detection rate is also important. So that is the first important paper and technology with AI in capsule. But even more, what is important, the overall result. The sensitivity per patient analysis is very high. The sensitivity per lesion analysis is very high. And the conventional reading was 74.57% compared to what we expect with a computer. And last point is concerning the reading time. With expert, the conventional reading time was about 96 minutes, and the reading time, conventional reading time with a capsule is less than 6 minutes. So that means with this software, with AI, we have accurate diagnosis compared to the expert, and we are faster. And now, next part of my talk is concerning the guided capsule. The guided capsule, first guided capsule in the world, have been performed in my unit with my friend, Japanese friend, and especially Professor Hosoe. And then had been developed. Unfortunately, Olympus and Siemens decided not to carry on. It was taken later on in China in 2014, and now we have next steps in 2019 is the Ginseng robot, what is a magnetic guided capsule compared to the robot. Because the first capsule trial we performed with a free Japanese university. All colleagues come to work with me in Saint-Laurent-du-Var, and we compare with gastroscopy. But it was important, we use the joystick to move the capsule during the examination, and the patient was in three different positions. But you see, compared to the endoscopy, the overall result was quite high, more than 80% depending on the position, what is really very successful to look about the total gastric cavity. And you see the detail of the gastric examination with the capsule. Here you have pylori, small abnormality, multiple antrum ulceration, and over ulceration. So we saw a high dysplasia into a tumor, what is one example. And then this trial had been carried on in Shanghai, and they show exactly the same. So we have 90% of the similitude with the gastric, but at that time, the manipulation of this capsule, gastric capsule in the stomach was by joystick. So it's again like a gastroscopy. If you are a good gastroscopist, you are able to see the stomach in detail. If you are very keen on joystick, you could see about the same. And then we perform, in my unit, we use the Oncon capsule, and we are 60 patients, and the overall were missing. But what is interesting, when we think about missing lesion, there are some missing lesions missed by the capsule, but we are on the other hand, there are some missing lesions missed by the gastroscopy. That means, some very tiny angioma are missed by the gastroscopy and not missed by the capsule. So that means the agreement was quite high in Saint-Laurent-du-Var and in China, in Shanghai. And now is the last step. The last step is the robotic capsule system designed by Jinsen. And this is the first trial performed in Chongqing. You know, they use 114 cases. Since then, the paper had been published in Lancet Hepatology. And this is exactly like the other one. You know, the differences between the Olympus gastric or the Ancon is this part. In this part is a robot. You know, a robot conduct the manipulation of the capsule. So that means as soon as a patient swallow the capsule, you have nothing to do. Everything is performed in 15 minutes by the robot. And this is some aspect from this first clinical trial. And you see the manipulation of the capsule by robot is monitored also by the computer. And the computer stops the robot manipulation when you have 100% control the gastric cavity. And this overall result show full automatized examination of on the stomach. Small bowel examination is also performed with the same capsule. So you start to do the capsule examination with a robot in the stomach, and then you release the capsule in small bowel, and it becomes exactly like a small bowel examination. So we are able to see the stomach and then the small bowel, the safety, no more adverse event on this trial, no capsule retention. It was really the first one. And you could see, as we done in Central India, I done in Shanghai, they are able to diagnose about, you know, the same kind of diagnosis by the gastroscopy with the guided capsule. And in that examination, you know, all examination is totally, and even the diagnosis is performed by a nurse. You just have to look about the result. And so that is a complete, in that first clinical trial, we have complete rate on 96% by capsule endoscopy and the target 85%. But, and then it was a small bowel examination. So that was quite an improvement at that time. And that means now we are thinking about new indication, because up to now, the esophagus is difficult to really assess. Low esophagus, it's okay, but it's more esophagus difficult. Gastric, now with a gastric guided capsule, we could assess in detail. Small bowel also, and the colon, as Professor Hosoe showed nicely last hours. But now, with a guided gastric capsule, come back a new indication. And this is with a conventional conventional small bowel capsule. The idea came from David Keio. David Keio in Boston, you know, they start to use capsule in emergency. Because in Europe and in state, usually when you have a obscure or overbleeding, we start gastroscopy. If a gastroscopy is negative, we do colonoscopy, and if colonoscopy is negative, we start with a capsule. And now the idea of David Keio is to start directly in emergency the capsule. Non-hematemesis bleeding, you could start with a capsule, and it shows clearly some benefits. It's also used from a paper from a colleague in Japan. So the idea now is to have a pan endoscopy with guided capsule. So non-hematemesis bleeding patient, we use a capsule in emergency or in intensive care unit, and then as soon as the capsule leave the stomach, we use a small bowel prior gastroscopy. And we did, with the Ancon system, we did 39 examinations. It was quite positive, like David Keio did. But, you know, with David Keio, with conventional capsule, you cannot monitor accurately the stomach. In that case, we can monitor. So it's a really important point. And I may say also, there are a huge difference between China and outside China. Outside China, we use small bowel capsule, and the guided capsule is not very popular yet. But in China, the guided capsule from Jinsan and Hong Kong are very popular. More than 200 hospitals are using guided capsule. Why? Because in China, the number of gastroenterologists compared to the population is quite low. And in many cases, they don't have enough gastroenterologists. So with a guided gastric capsule, especially with a robot, we have a possibility to perform the screening with a nurse, and the doctor need only to look about the result of the examination. So it's make more and more popular. Now we start to use the Jinsen system in Europe, and we develop the possibility to use the gastric guided system or the pan-gastric in Europe, like they did in China. So, in summary, capsule endoscopy is a breakthrough in small bowel endoscopy since 20 years. AI in capsule endoscopy is a major improvement in daily practice. So that means even if you don't have the guided gastric capsule, you have an AI for small bowel capsule, you have an AI for colon capsule. That means it's much more easier to perform, and the reading time is minimal. Magnetic guided capsule will also benefit of AI with the development of automated examination, as I just showed in Chongqing, but now available around the world. And in the near future, like in China, all small bowel capsule examination will be carried out by nurse and assistant. Thank you. And don't forget, next month, we have a World Congress, Arnault 2024, July 4 to 6 in Seoul, under World Endoscopic Examination, Endoscopic Organization. And I hope you will be numerous to be there. Thank you very much.